you like to be first names or supervisor, Stansel,
However you are most comfortable.
Okay, good, I just wanna make sure. Okay, 23-year resident of Madison County. My husband and I raise cow-calf pairs on our Madison County farm. I have primary employment for over 20 years. It was in property and asset management. I actively, this is my current stuff, actively volunteer in my church. I spend a lot of time with my family. I'm also a volunteer at the Elks in West Des Moines. They do veteran, for the benefit of veterans and children primarily. I also volunteer for the West Des Moines and Des Moines Police Departments as a trainer for the, it's called the Iowa Crime-Free Multi-Housing Program. And those are my volunteer things I do. I just do that 2 or 3 times a year, and they work around my schedule. So that would be most of what I wanted to say about me.
Okay. I'm sorry, I took your questions. You can
That's
take
okay.
my question.
Why have you applied for Madison County Auditor?
Well, the most attractive characteristic of this job is that it is a job that needs to be done now, and it needs to be done right and well, and if it is done well, then we benefit Madison County. You know, I came to the county per the request of Heather, because they were moving the board clerk duties in 2023 under the Board of Supervisors. I interviewed, I was hired, and I fell in love with the work. I love the difficulty of it, the attention to detail, the parameters that you have to follow. There's lots of rules. I love the proximity to my home. I like serving my neighbors and my county. The subject matter, as I said, I like the fact that you get to work on continuous improvement, meaning you can identify things that maybe could work more smoothly. You embrace the things that work well, and that's what I found about being in the board clerk. As far as the board clerk for the supervisors and the county auditor, I do pick up things quickly. I received good reviews, and I was referred to as a self-starter. I look back at my reviews, and I did spend hours reading code, because at the beginning I had more time on my hands than I did hours worked, or tasks at work. So I was able to, you know, kind of do above and beyond. So I really like that. That's why I applied.
What experience do you have, if any, in government?
Well, it goes all the way back to my first job out of college. I was a health benefit specialist. And of course, health insurance is governed by the Iowa Insurance Division. From there, I had to learn Iowa Code 562A, which governs everything you do in property management. Did my own small claims actions. I worked on Iowa civil rights as it pertains to housing and employment. I've actually conducted fair housing trainings. I work with Section 8, that's all government. I was also the OSHA compliance person. I don't know, they call it an officer, but I didn't feel like an officer. I just did the PowerPoints, and then I reviewed employee performance for compliance with OSHA, so I would inspect that. Then, as I indicated in my last answer, the County Home Rule Chapter 331, the Freedom of Information Act, and the Iowa Code as it pertains to county operations. Right, Michaela?
Thanks, Michelle, thank you.
You bet.
Back in the regular.
Back on the regular schedule.
Yeah, sorry about that.
What skill sets, education, or current certifications do you have that you think would be beneficial to this office, and please describe?
Absolutely. So not only do I have an MBA with an emphasis in finance, but I also have practiced and proven success with creating and managing and administrating budgets. I think I'm pretty sure Kelly forwarded you, some letters of recommendation. Did you all get those?
Yes.
Okay, it talks about, some of my accomplishments and, skills. The second item would be actual experience in the auditor's office, the technical side of the job. I understand the deadlines, the tax certifications that are on their way, the claims, the payroll, the annual financial reporting, the county audits, the elections, and then of course we serve now as the board to, as the clerk to the Board of Supervisors. There's also the fact that we are custodians to the numerous number of county records. Another skill set is my communication. I think there was another recommendation or letter from somebody who would be an example of how I took somebody who was struggling in their position and mentored them onto, they're now an assistant manager in their company, have been there for 15 years. Organization, as I know a couple of you folks have actually witnessed firsthand, I still practice the 7 habits of highly effective people. So that's a skill set that I've had. I've been certified with that. I'm cost conscious, and I mean very cost conscious. I understand real estates and facilities, which lends itself to good fiscal management. I am proficient in performance management. I can write performance management plans, which I will talk more about at the subsequent question. And then I try, although I'm very human, to practice Dale Carnegie principles. I think that was the last thing.
All right, as county auditor, this is a public office, subject to election. Your actions and decisions may occasionally face public criticism or backlash, whether related to budget cuts, controversial audits, or administrative changes. Can you describe how you would respond to public concerns or negative feedback while maintaining transparency, professionalism, and public trust?
No problem, I love this question. It's already started. Evidently there was a post that lists all of our applicants' experience and jobs, and I've already got some frowning faces on my yay. Somebody, I don't know who that person is, but anyway, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I think you guys know from your own experience with me, I've got very tough skin. I can have tough conversations, and I do work to resolution, and I try not to make it at the other person's expense. I really hope you believe that. Let's see, I firmly believe that most people do not understand what true transparency is, and I believe in being preemptive with my actions. So if I think something's going to look funny, I might want to speak to it before it actually becomes a problem. We have a great opportunity in our county. There is a time set aside every 2 weeks for department reports, which includes elected officials. And I would love the opportunity to get up every 2 weeks and give a report. Hey, this is what we did this week. Here's our challenges coming up this next week or 2, and figure out, by the way, do we know tax certifications are due August 1st? We're working on them, and to like I said, preemptively report on what you're doing, instead of letting people find out about things via what we know, the scuttlebutt. So, pardon my expression. So, that was.
You got a frowny face, Michelle, you're doing great.
Yeah.
That's all you got.
You're right, I suppose it could be worse. Again, that's my big idea about how, when we speak about, transparency, professionalism, and public trust. I can't think of anything that would build public trust more quickly than that. I do want to add also that I am my own worst critic. And again, I was telling you, I try to bring things to the forefront when there are issues. Okay, done.
Walk us through your approach to preparing and administering local government budgets. How would you ensure compliance with chapter 24?
Well, first of all, you have to know your deadlines, and you have to know what your responsibility is, and you have to know that, and if someone in the organization or the county is struggling or not doing it correctly, then you'd be able to share your knowledge with them. I mean, I could read from you chapter 24, but there's definite deadlines, they're non-negotiable.
So you'll help other offices?
Yes, if that's, yes. The other thing is, part of doing it is administering it correctly, giving good data. You know, they say garbage in, garbage out. And if you can't be rested assured that, let's say secondary roads, they need to be sure that the information they got throughout the year was correct, so they can, and you guys know what we went through this last time, so hopefully that answers your question. Don't avoid.
So, okay.
Well, next time we'll have a lot more time to
Exactly.
do it than the 2 months we were.
Oh, and
given.
that wasn't a criticism, you guys. I
No,
mean,
I
we
know,
pulled
I
off a
know.
miracle, right? I mean, think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I learned more about budgets than I care to know.
I think I should be a big B.
Yeah, so we'll have a lot more time. next
No,
time.
and please, it was not a criticism. I'm just saying that that's an answer to your question. Don't do what we did.
We learned what not to do.
There we go,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Tell us about a time you had to maintain or improve operational efficiency in either a private sector or government office setting.
Absolutely. There was also something I wanted to make sure that you guys got a hold of, was a promotional piece from my time in Iowa Active Management. Hopefully that came through. So I've never really ever inherited a job that wasn't derelict or in disrepair or in huge problems, except for when I took over board clerk. I will tell you that when I took over for board clerk, those files and those systems were in such good shape. I think that's why I fell in love with the job, really. It was just in good shape. But there is a reference also you received from Keith Benner. It was private because I don't think he really wanted everybody to see it, if it needs to be public. But it speaks about the occupancy that we turned around. So I joined a 1,075 unit property for the second time, and they were struggling with occupancy. And I think we increased revenue that year by $300,000. Okay, that was the bottom line. That was the NOI, not the cash flow. Anyway, another time that I took over a third-party asset, that means not owned by the management company. It was 800,000 square feet of office space, commercial office space. And it was just riddled with problems. We had people hiding out in break rooms and very upset tenants, and these are like Wells Fargo and Bell & Law Firm and kind of big players. And so I had to get on top of that very quickly, and I did. So we dealt with customer service issues, loafing, performance management, and the biggest thing that we had to do was acquaint these non-local owners. They were from New Mexico. They didn't understand Iowa nice. Okay, so they wanted to come in and beat everybody up, and if anybody's from New Mexico, I apologize in advance. But so they were tough. And so here I am, the middleman between my company's core values and these absentee owners, and we had to blend that. And they were literally beside themselves when our company, they didn't come around, but for 5 years, we did a good job of cash flowing those properties. So eventually we could not get them on, and my company decided to terminate that relationship. So does that answer a question?
Yes.
I have a million of them, so I'm just trying to be succinct.
How would you handle a request for a certified copy of a record in your office, and what steps would you take to protect confidential or sensitive information?
Absolutely. I actually am very familiar with the Freedom of Information Act. And if I am the custodian of a record, I need to comply with the law. Confidential or sensitive information is defined in section 22(7). And therefore, if there is any question, I would definitely move it up the food chain. I'm not gonna make that decision on my own for the fear of having unnecessary, I don't know what the result would be. But anyway, I would move it up the food chain if I had any questions. I do want to also mention here that the reason I'm familiar with this is because the previous county attorney, Hardesty, asked me to work on that project where we created a policy, a time frame, a log, a form, and then ultimately would have been education for all of our county employees on what their responsibilities are. And I turned that back over before I left, well, actually, quite a while before I left, in March, to the county attorney's office. So it's ready to go, it's ready to go. Does that answer that question?
Yes.
Okay.
As Commissioner of Elections, you're responsible for overseeing fair and secure elections. What steps would you take to ensure election integrity, voter confidence, and compliance with election laws, especially in today's climate of heightened scrutiny?
Sure. Well, I would work with the elections deputy to ensure that they have all the training and support they need. I would be sure that I was present through the entire process, from beginning to end. I would conduct yearly trainings for all of the staff so there were no missteps, because we know that sometimes if you've got a person standing at your desk wanting answers, somebody that doesn't know the answer might be motivated to say what they think or give the wrong information. So we want to set those clear expectations that only our elections deputy answers those questions. That's the support I could pledge to that elections deputy. I want you to also know that I did work on the primary and general elections last year. I tested the machines for the auditor's office, and I did work entering absentee ballots here at the courthouse. So I have had that hands-on experience just recently. Did that? Good? Okay.
Yeah.
Just sorry.
It was
I
great.
make sure I really want to talk. You know that.
You're a good talker.
So for the absentee, what did you do for the absentee? Did you count them?
No, I actually set up at the computer, entered in people's information, printed the stickers, whole thing.
Ah, okay.
Oh, to provide the absentee ballot.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Because they were long days, and I mean, there's, the one thing that I do know about elections, none of your other work stops.
No.
You pay
that's right.
claims, you do payroll, nothing else stops. So I like that I was given the opportunity to help. I think that's just.
So were you one of the observers when they tested the machines, or did you actually?
I actually tested them myself.
Okay.
I mean, there's two of us, and
You stuck the
Michaela might be
ballots.
able to,
You stuck the ballots in?
yeah,
I have helped do that also.
Yeah.
Okay.
absolutely.
If they're really slammed for time, they'll come and help you feed in the ballots, or
Well,
you
for
do
the
whatever.
testing, I just didn't know, because they had the testing and then they had the observers that are there for the testing.
Yeah, this was just the testing.
Okay.
There were no other,
No, just.
like when we ran for,
Oh,
remember?
I remember.
Just-
I remember.
Yeah, okay, all right, thanks for clarifying.
No worries.
Okay, what will you do, if anything, to assist the Board of Supervisors in the lowering of property taxes?
This was my second favorite question that you guys had. Please understand, I can only govern my office's expenses. However, providing accurate and timely information, as I was indicated earlier, to department heads and other elected offices is critical. If they can't do what they need to do if I haven't done what I do. You eliminate mistakes, so that's one thing. Another one is eliminate mistakes that would trigger additional auditing. Because we know when there are additional audits, we pay for that. if we don't respond in a timely manner with the requested information, we get additional charges from the state auditor. I've seen a few of those bills come through. Another thing is, my philosophy is, and this has been from my private sector experience, if it does not make or save us money, then why are we doing it? Okay? I believe that wholeheartedly. On my other perspective, my other mantra is, just because you can do something, should you do something, right? And if you guys need to know what I mean by that, I think you'd probably do, there's a lot of things that I think we could be more transparent about. Another thing is, part of what brings inefficiency and brings efficiency and lowers costs is having procedures and policies in place. That way what we're doing is just second nature, because we are all human, and we don't want to be perceived as handling folks differently from situation to situation. And I know that helps when I have things in writing, when I have expectations. That's something that I brought to most of the consulting jobs I've ever done, and I think even to this one, was to bring policies and procedures into place. It prevents lawsuits, and I think there were 3 lawsuits we went through during my tenure, the last 3 years. The other thing, the most important thing in lowering property taxes, which is a reflection of what we're spending, is turnover. Having turnover in offices, that's our biggest expense to the county right now. We lose experience, that translates into lost dollars. It triggers outside training when seasoned employees leave, and every time we replace somebody, the workflow is disrupted. There's just no two ways about it. Again, it costs us money. So hopefully those are good examples of the approach I would take to help save money.
So normal hours of courthouse are 8 to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. However, during budget time and election time, hours are often longer to accommodate Iowa code requirements, the needs of the supervisors, or just to get the work done. Will that be an issue? And if not, give an example of a time when you are faced with a similar work requirement to meet the needs of an organization.
I think in my cover letter, I said there is no task too menial. If somebody is struggling, I'm gonna sit down next to them, and I've done that a number of times in the year and a half that I was here as a board clerk. I believe in doing the job until it's done and done right, and sometimes that takes extra hours. My average work week, most of my professional career, was 60 hours a week. I was salary. I carried 4 pagers in the 90s, and after that it was a cell phone 24/7. I was on call for a property that housed over 3,000 people, which in that time was larger than 85% of the towns in Iowa. And that was all on 80 acres. In addition to that 1,075 units, there were 1,500 more across the Des Moines area. And that was my ultimate responsibility. So short answer is no, it will not be a problem in any way, shape, or form. This is gonna be my focus, folks.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime, lost a license or certification, or been a party in a civil lawsuit?
Oh, yes. Well, I've had 6 speeding tickets from 1994 to 2025. I had to look up my Iowa courts record.
I was gonna say, did you know that at the top of your head?
No,
I was like,
No. And probably one of the most, this is hard to say in a public meeting, but I own my mistakes. I had a DUI 7 years ago. And, but I do wanna add on that, I have a great credit score. I've never been sent to collections. I've never driven without a license or registration or insurance. And I've been in, I've never been professionally reprimanded. And I've literally been entrusted with millions of dollars of assets. And I've never had one misstep with any of it. I've always balanced.
Only 6 speeding tickets, Rick got a.
30 years, 30
Rick got
years,
it.
31 years.
Rick
Thank
got
you
a
for that.
Speeding ticket coming home from speeding school.
You just outed him in a public meeting.
Well, my husband just got one in Dallas County yesterday. I'm like, what? Don't you know I'm interviewing tomorrow?
It happens to all of us.
It does, it does, but yeah, so, is there any more information you
No,
need about that?
thanks, Michelle, for being so honest.
Well, I mean, you guys, hopefully you know, this is me. I got nothing.
This position is only temporary to fill a vacancy. It will be required to be placed on the ballot for election next year. Are you aware of this, and do you plan to run for this office when it does?
I do. So this is my focus. There is a lot of work to be done. It does not stop for holidays. It does not, employee absences. And while I have, this is why I always wanted to speak to, because I don't want anyone confused. Iowa Active Management was something I started because I was getting calls all the time. What would you do here? Can you help me with this? Blah, blah, blah. I loved it because I did become an expert in my field. And so I thought, well, I should be getting paid. So that's when I created my Iowa Active Management Consulting. I have not had an active client in probably 2 years. So it is not my intent to make this my project, okay? I am ready to start on Monday. I've researched what needs to be done. I want to be the auditor. So I want you to be assured that there's no conflict of interest, or this is not gonna be an assignment for my consulting business. As I've told you folks, both privately and publicly, I've been looking for full-time work, you know, and better pay for the better part of 18 months. I have stayed plugged in, and not to be a pain in anybody's tuchus, but just so that if an opportunity did arise, I would be ready to go. You know, I've applied for the second deputy, the first deputy, and I'm sincere in my desire to not just take this job for a year, but to make it such a good performance that it's a no-brainer for me to continue. That is my goal.
Well, the next question we're going to answer, have you lived in Madison County at least 60 days?
23 years.
We already know that.
I sure have.
So that's yes, so I got a quick answer there, so.
Nice.
Do you have any questions for us, Michelle?
I kind of tapped into it a little bit with my last answer. You answered my question about receiving my letters of recommendation. Those were just, I asked them, I didn't tell them what to write, I just wanted them, give them what you think of me. And some of these folks are people who actually, I left their companies. So, I'm just still unclear about the deliberation process. As I said, I'm hopeful that I'm the selected candidate. I'm ready to go. I just don't know if you're gonna make that decision after the last interview on Thursday to help whomever prepare. Does that make sense? Is that what's gonna
And that's the
happen?
intention for us to
Yes.
deliberate Thursday afternoon, after
Okay,
the interviews are done.
that would be great. I just, like I said, I think everybody who interviewed this way is very, very brave.
I do
Yes,
too.
that is-
And I want props to everybody who stuck in there. I mean, yeah, I am like,
It's new to us too.
no, I don't
Especially-
envy anybody in this situation. I mean, is it the right thing to do? Sure, but
It's still weird,
it's very weird,
yes.
very weird. So,
Cause the ones that we do not choose, all their public information is already
Yes.
out there.
yeah, and I
That's what
hope people
feel.
are
And you had to
kind,
state
I
it in
hope people
front
are
of
kind with
everybody.
that
Yes.
information.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I know.
I'm not gonna be sharing it, so.
No, I
Well,
meant like
it's
the
all
public,
taped,
I,
yeah.
Yeah, it's all-
that's my
Such
goal.
open records, so yeah,
Yeah,
it's public.
but it's not something I'm gonna.
Video.
You know, and I do want, I think it's really important, the last thing is that let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's be boring again. Let's forget why we're here and just, you guys do you. Get a competent auditor here in there that can actually do their job. I mean, and I'm not saying there isn't, I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? Alright.
Yeah.
And I won't quit talking before I take myself.
So,
Well, I blurt out worse stuff than you, so.
Well, no, I mean, it's not that, I just, we can't worry about what's happened.
well, your interview was very short because we know so much about you already.
Well, and hopefully I gave you good answers.
Oh, you gave
Oh,
great
yeah, yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I'm saying we didn't have to draw anything out because,
No, and I didn't have to go off on a tangent either, right?
yeah.
Cause I really, like I said, I've stayed tapped in, guys, and I hope I get the opportunity. So nobody needs copies of these, right?
We
Oh,
got
no, we
it.
read them.
Yay.
Thanks,
Thank you
Michelle.
very
You
much.
betcha.
Thank you for your time,
Thank
and
you for
again,
your time.
as you stated, the courage just to do this, I
Yes.
commend
Well,
everybody.
that was a good thing to say, Michelle.